there's this place, and it's built like a World War I kind of restaurant thing.
It's like a trench warfare restaurant? It's like...
Kind of, yeah.
Wow, that's fucking crazy.
They got sandbags piled up outside.
Really? What the fuck do you eat at a World War I themed restaurant? Like, you get like a mustard gas fucking sandwich or something? Like, what do you eat?
Yeah, it's like, you dip your bandages in the soup.
Jesus Christ.
Hello there and welcome back. A few weeks ago, Paul and I spoke to Billy Bob Thornton, and he was just an open book. The conversation took a lot of unexpected turns, and we talked for a long time and wanted to share more of our chat with all of you. Have a listen.
You have a kind of thing about ghosts, or you have a thing about hauntedness?
No, I'm just creeped out around old stuff.
Like, if you're on a movie set or something and it's a fake old chair, are you still freaked out by it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So even though you know it's not actually old, it'll still freak you out?
Oh, no. You mean if they've made a replica of that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's a little creepy, and then I just have to tell myself, okay, this is brand new. They just built it. I can smell the paint.
Right.
But it's an aesthetic, that just creeps me out. Like, for instance, I don't mind, like, anywhere back to, like, say the 40s, I'm okay.
Okay.
Like World War II kind of stuff. I'm good.
This is really specific.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's very specific. And you ought to hear about my OCD. Boy, then we get
we're here, man. No. We're here. We're gonna hear about it. But so anything. So past a certain point, it starts to really bother you.
Yeah. Like I could never, eat in a house or sleep in a house that was, say, built during like the Civil War or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
World War I even creeps me out. This girl thought she was going to be really nice to me one time and take me for my birthday because she knew that I study history.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this place over in Van Nuys over here by the airport, and it's built like a World War I kind of restaurant thing, and it's like under the ground. So if you're sitting in your seat at the table, the windows are like right here. So you can look right out onto the runway, right?
It's like a trench warfare restaurant. It's like
kind of, yeah.
Wow, that's fucking crazy.
They got sandbags piled up outside.
Really?
And so she took me over there, and I went in there, and they got those like old looking lamps, and with the doilies and the fringe on the lamp things, and and see, I don't even like real silverware. It's just the heavy real stuff. It's like I prefer plastic, but if I can, I get Walmart kind or whatever. But it was just really, well, I couldn't move. I was sitting there, and I started to get like a claustrophobic feeling.
Yeah.
And I felt bad because she went out of her way to do this for me,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there at the table like frozen, and I didn't eat anything because I couldn't.
Jeez.
I mean, I got a plate of pasta there, and I'm just like, this dish is way too old-fashioned, and so
this fucking fork
right next to me.
Yeah, this heavy silver fork, man.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Well, did you have was there a traumatic experience in your childhood?
Yeah, is there something
that involved this stuff, or it's not like that, or you don't know?
I don't think so. I mean, I always had this, and I grew up for several years in my grandmother's house, kind of out in the woods, and she had old kind of stuff. But I guess when you're a little kid, whatever you have is what you just think everything is,
Yeah.
And it's normal to eat possum until you finally go to a Safeway, But one way or the other, it's a thing that's always creeped me out, and.
But it's interesting. It's interesting because it doesn't bother you if it's new. So, I mean, to me, it's like, it makes sense that you're picking up on something you might be. I mean, I understand you also have other OCD things, but it's like you're picking up on something maybe that is kind of fucked up and uncanny about this old stuff. You know, you may be super tuned into stuff like that. You know, what the fuck do you eat at a World War I themed restaurant? Like, you get like a mustard gas fucking sandwich or something. Like, what do you eat?
Yeah, it's like you dip your bandages in the soup.
But, Jesus Christ!
I don't know. It's like. Well, at the time, I was still eating, things that I can't eat now. I'm highly allergic to dairy and wheat and shellfish and all these things. But at the time, I had, what do you call it? The creamy pasta.
Fettuccine?
Yeah, that.
Fettuccine Alfredo.
Okay.
That's a class. Sure, it's classic. That's what they ate in the trenches for sure. That's what they were all fucking eating. Fettuccine Alfredo. Nothing like
the famous story where the Germans and the British, had a truce on Christmas Eve and they had fettuccine.
Fettuccine, naturally.
The traditional fettuccine Alfredo. Yeah, always. Just make peace, break bread with the fucking. Is that all true? That stuff about that? I don't know. Didn't they make a movie out of that? Out of the?
I think they did. It was about the soccer game. Right?
They played an actual.
Yes, on Christmas.
That stuff is true.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like phobias like that are interesting to me. I mean, when I was a kid, I was really phobic about bugs. Like I was so phobic about them. I was about 3, I think. And I still sort of remember it. And I saw one of those, it's kind of like spiny horse chestnut things. They have the kind of, there's like a spiny shell to it. And it's all kind of like, it's kind of spiky looking. And I think I thought it was a gigantic fucking bug. And I went into a kind of shock and they had to lower me into a warm bath. They did. They did.
Is that what they still do with you?
I don't know. I guess so. Again, it's like World War I. It's like the 1870s. Exactly. They lowered me into a warm bath with Epsom salts and shit. Yeah, but that is what they did. It was like 1971 or something like that. So I guess they didn't know what else to fucking do. But it is interesting because I do think for a long time I was freaked out by bugs, and I do think that it was something about like the fact that something that small was alive freaked me out.
But you that phobia makes sense because most human beings have a phobia about spiders or snakes because it would be something that would keep you alive if you stayed away from this shit when you were evolving. But Billy's phobia of the silverware is like sort of in a different realm altogether. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm afraid of like small spaces and claustrophobic, but then like what Billy has sounds like Edgar Allan Poe, like where it's just like the pen suddenly like freaks you out or something. Like it's almost like a random thing.
Yeah. Your mother was psychic, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And do you have any sense that you inherited anything like that from her?
Well, I mean, according to her and like sort of, real psychics, she wasn't like the corner store with a palm on the thing. I mean, she actually spoke at medical conventions on parapsychology and stuff like that. And she said, that psychics, if you're talking to somebody who really has ESP or anything like that, people think that they can ask questions, specific questions. Am I going to meet a tall, handsome stranger or whatever?
Yeah. And
she said, the way it happens is it's all feelings and things and visions that come to you. It's not, it's like I would be talking to my mom sometimes. I had her read for me very rarely, and she didn't particularly like to do it because she didn't want to see. And so the times when I was desperate and really needed her to, she did read for me, and she always wanted me to write things down so I would, have it for later because she didn't know when this was or anything, when it was going to happen or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would be talking to her about, does Mitzi still love me? And, and then she would say, are you going to trade cars? I thought you just got that one.
And wow.
Yeah, I did just get it. And she goes, oh, okay. And you write that down. And then like 3 months later, I'm like, I can't stand this car. There's something wrong with it. And the next thing you know, I'm down there getting a new car. And then I remember that she said that.
Yeah.
And then I go back and read up on what she said. So she only would tell you the things that came to her, And
it was just more kind of random stuff coming to her. It wasn't necessarily.
Yeah.
I fully buy that more than the, like, when you see the psychics who I see your mother standing behind you and she's talking about your birthday cake and she's asking you about, I don't buy that stuff as much as I do that, which just seems like it's just something that comes through.
I mean, just a hopefully quick story that happened years ago. I had lost my job and I was playing in a band. I was a skinny, long-haired hippie and I was playing in this band, and but it was in the winter time and gigs were pretty few and far between. And I worked for the county road department, in the meantime. And then it got really cold. I lost my job there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost it. Anyway, anyway, but somebody did something. Anyway, so I was in the house that I lived in when I was in junior high and high school. Yeah. And my mom had remarried after my father died, who died at 44. And so she remarried a few years later. She's married to this doctor, and they'd moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and where he worked for the Veterans Administration. And my little brother moved with them and everything. So I stayed there in the house. Well, I didn't have any money, and the stepfather was kind of mean. Well, he wasn't kind of mean. He was a lot mean. And so he only gave her money to go buy groceries with and stuff, but she would sneak like a 20 every now and then and mail it to me. And that was enough for, Twinkies and Lance crackers and a Dr. Pepper. So
fantastic. Yeah.
One way or the other, for some reason, this is when cable was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And we had gotten cable. And so I had cable, but I guess they forgot I had cable, the company, because I didn't have any money to pay for it, but they didn't shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
The gas, however, they did shut off. So here we are in the wintertime, and I would sleep in this, because I was creeped out by myself in this freezing house. I mean, you could see your breath.
Yeah.
And I would sleep in a coat in my dad's old easy chair and watch cable. So I had cable and no heat, bundled up in a coat, right? And so I really needed a job, but there was snow on the ground, and I mean, like really cold. And so I talked to my mom on the phone, who I would call collect. And she said, do you know someone named Slidell? And I said, I don't think so. And she said, well, a place called Slidell, or a company called Slidell, something like that. I said, no, I don't. And she said, well, I just, maybe it's nothing. I just thought there was something to do with that was going to help you with money somehow, or to get a job or something. Well, about a week later, this guy, I was an older guy, I knew him, and he knew that I could drive a truck because I drove one for the highway department and stuff. And he was a truck driver. And he said, look, I've just been on a run hauling something, and I'm just beat. He actually came to the house, knocked on the door, because back in those days in a small southern town, you just did that. And so there's this guy telling me that if he would pay me, like I think it was $100 or something like that, or 200 maybe even. I don't remember clearly now, but it was way more money than I dreamed I was going to get right then. And he said, if you'll share the driving with me, because I'm beat. And I think he was hauling gravel down there. But anyway, I said, yeah, I'll go. Where are we going? He said, Slidell, Louisiana.
Nice.
And I just got chilled. All of
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And at that time, I didn't know. Slidell's outside of New Orleans there, a ways. But at the time, I didn't know anything about Slidell.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you think your mom gets a vision, or it's a feeling and then a word, and she just throws that word at you to see if that connects in any way?
Yeah, I think things came to her in thoughts and visions.
Uh-huh.
And she just had these feelings, and she had these sort of like official ESP cards. They make cards. I think they were Duke University cards, because at
the
one
wavy,
point,
like wavy lines on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, and a triangle.
Yeah.
And so she had those, and I asked her one time. I said, "What do each one of these mean?" And she goes, "Yeah, well, if you read up on it, there's different meanings for different configurations or whatever." But she said, with me, I don't really pay much attention to them. I do them to distract myself. So she would shuffle them around and lay them out, and pick them up again and lay them out. But she said she only concentrated on them so it could clear her mind, and she wasn't focusing on the person,
Is it like tarot card type thing? I don't know those cards.
Yeah, tarot is like, they have different, like the King of Swords or the whatever, thing like, and each one has a meaning or whatever.
No, these were like for actually studying people's like psychic ability, I think. I think it was Duke University had this kind of parapsychology unit. I think they still do. And it's like, I've always wanted to go check it out and just be like, do I have any psychic ability?
Yeah.
But and it was some kind of deck of cards that was used. You'd have people, I think. I mean, again, and by the way, Billy Bob, on this program, I talk out my ass most of the time because I'm just like, I have vague knowledge about everything I'm fucking talking about. But I think it was stuff where you would test people by having them sit in opposite rooms, and somebody would look at the card with the wavy lines on it, and somebody else would sit in another room. And, I mean, and I think they got good results from it, because I actually think it was, it wasn't bullshit, and it isn't bullshit, I don't think, in a lot of ways.
She actually told me about that deal.
Did she ever do something like that? Did she do that?
I think she went to Duke and tested there very highly. And but I have heard about that other thing, with the, getting in different rooms, and it was, the cards, and I think they had some other things that they would do with people in the separate rooms. But at one point, I don't know if it still is, but it was the leading school in parapsychology in the country.
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of the deal,
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Here's more with Billy Bob Thornton. Enjoy the Chinwag.
I was talking to this friend of mine who was very into like psychic powers and healing and all these different kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "Are you hearing differently lately?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And I thought, "Oh no, because we've been mixing a record. Am I going to go deaf?" Right. So then she says, "No, I'm like psychically hearing." And I said, "No, I guess that's a term they use or something." But she said, "I just see that you're really alive with that right now." And it's true. And like, honest to God, I can get a text, and I know before I pick the phone up who it is. And that can be obviously because, you're expecting a text from Rusty or whoever, But I mean, I get up to 3 texts a day. So we're talking about a lot of texts. No, anyway, so
yeah.
But one way or the other, that has been going on a lot. And then for a while, it happened when I was in the old house, the haunted one, and it started happening again lately, where every time I would look at the clock in the morning or at night, it was 11:11. And I read up on a thing, and it said 11:11 is a thing. And there's this whole forum of people talking about they see 11:11 all the time.
Really?
Well, so that's been happening again. And these are, like you said, when it's random, it really makes sense to you,
Yeah.
And
more convincing.
So my daughter and I take drives a lot, at night. We just drive through the canyons and stuff. I always have it on the Beatles channel, and I brought her up listening to the Beatles, and she's learned. I've told her stories about the way they formed and the infighting and the different, all about the Beatles. She can tell you if it's Ringo or Paul singing, and
awesome.
So one way or the other.
Good parenting.
It's
very good parenting.
So we're driving out the other night to get an ice cream, and if it were a different song, this could easily be a coincidence. But we're talking about the Beatles, and we're talking about John Lennon, and I was talking about how he was a little different than the rest of them. He was a little bit more avant-garde. He was sort of, into like these weird things and stuff. So Anyway, I said, for instance, John Lennon had one song called Revolution Number 9, where he literally just says number 9 over and over, and then there's some music. It says, and my daughter starts laughing. I'll be damned if it didn't come on.
Right on.
And the guy on the channel said, here's Revolution Number 9.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't Penny Lane or I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah.
They never play Revolution Number 9. They never play that.
So, why would they play that? Yeah.
And it wasn't like it came on an hour later. It came on while we were talking about it.
That's crazy.
And then it happened 2 nights later when we went to the same place for the same ice cream.
Yeah.
And I was talking about George Harrison. And I said, well, George, a lot of his songs weren't like huge hits until maybe after the Beatles. But he did have a couple that were pretty big hits, like Something, and then Something comes on. Now, you only got a choice of 2 hit songs with George Harrison with Beatles, that and Here Comes the Sun.
We're going to hear from the Harrison fans now.
I know. I'm just saying in terms of like,
there's not a right.
Consider those classic songs, and I mean, because he had a lot of great songs, but those 2 are the ones I think you would think of automatically with George. And so anyway, that happened within a couple of days of each other. And then we're out here the other day at the creek by our house, and because there's been a lot of rain, and my daughter wanted to film the creek rushing because we had a drought, and also hear this, and she wants to hear the sound of the water running so she can put it in her sound library. Nice. So we're doing that, and there's a lady next door, our neighbor, who has horses, a couple of horses, and so we're standing there by the creek, and then Bella wants complete quiet when she's doing a video. So she's got her video thing up here looking at the creek. And then all of a sudden Connie goes, oh, look, there's Mandy, like that. So it ruined Bella's video. So anyway, Bella gets mad at her. Then today, Bella and I go down to the creek, and the creek was really high. It was rushing, and Bella says, do me a favor. I'm going to take a video. Don't do like mommy and ruin my video with, hey, look, there's Mandy and whistle, all right? So she turns her video on. Mandy comes riding down the road on the other side of the creek on her horse. Right then. I mean, around the corner. You couldn't see her until she rounded the corner.
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm like, the hell's going on here? But it's happening with my daughter. That's who these things are happening with. I just wonder, and because we're really close, if we have some kind of connection or something.
No, what if you're still like, here, I'm going to be the dick again. What if like you're like, like humans are really good at like finding patterns. You know what I mean? Like, you can see like, okay, that's a face in the cloud, or that's a horse in the cloud. And there was this test I was telling Paul about before, where they would put people in the lab and they would have you listening to white noise on headphones. And they said, okay, press this button when you hear like Bing Crosby's White Christmas come on. And there's something like 30% of people will sort of press the button. And then they revealed later they never played the song. They were just like, people were just like, I expect to hear it. So then I hear it. You know what I mean?
You make it sound like that's what you can tell
the
yourself
mind
that's
somehow
what you're hearing.
pieces it together. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that fits with the case you're saying, Billy, but you know what I mean? Like there's a sense in which you provide some order.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. But it's like, I mean, I don't know if there's a real rhythm to how often they play Revolution Number 9.
Oh, that's a good one.
By the way, when I was a kid, Bing Crosby scared the shit out of me. I just want to know if Bing Crosby scared anybody else. But when I was a kid, I thought, what the fuck is with that guy, man? He was so creepy to me as a kid. Yeah. Mo Howard from the Three Stooges and Bing Crosby scared the shit. Both of them scared the shit out of me. Because I was like, why does that mean looking fucking scary looking old man have a haircut like a little boy? I was like, that's fucking weird. And then also Bing Crosby had dead eyes. And I just was like, he used to scare the shit out of me. But Perry Mason, you're a Perry Mason fan too?
Yeah, the old ones. Yeah,
me too. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I always watch them.
Me too. I love those things. They're really great. Do you know they're doing like a Matlock reboot or something?
Are they really?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what the hell that would be like.
No. Why didn't they call?
I was going to say, that was the next thing I was going to say is, are you fucking playing Matlock?
Yeah.
You should definitely be playing Matlock.
Funny? I'll tell you, the funny thing is they actually wanted to make, I can't remember who it was, somebody was going to make a Matlock movie.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I'd play Matlock. And I said, well, I spent 4 or 5 years kind of doing that. The alcoholic Matlock.
Yeah, totally. Alcoholic Matlock.
Yeah. It's like, I think I'm done with that for now.
I don't know what the hell they would do like how they're going to reboot and make Matlock dark. The problem is what they'll do is they'll make him like a young, cool guy.
Well, of course they will.
A prequel.
They always do.
Yeah, that's the bummer. I remember they did a Kolchak the Night Stalker thing, and that's what they did to it. And they ruined it by by making it that.
Well, it's ridiculous. They have like a, they do the story of Benjamin Franklin. It's like some 22-year-old guy.
Full head of hair.
He's obviously just home from the gym every day.
Nice head of hair. I was just thinking that because there was something, I was reading something and I was like about astronauts or something. And I was like, I'd love to play an astronaut. And I thought they actually look more like me than they ever do look like the guys that they have play astronauts.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you remember that show Lost where the airplane crashed and the people were on some paradise kind of island? And I told a friend of mine, I said, well, here's a lesson for you. If you're ever in a plane crash, sit next to the pretty people.
That's exactly right. That's correct, Steve. You heard right. Always sit next to the pretty people on an airplane.
That's good advice, Paul.
It's Buddha-like wisdom from Billy Bob Thornton. I'm the guy who never actually does end up sitting next to the pretty people on a plane. I never do. Do you? I'm always sitting next to them.
I don't know. Is God saving the pretty people for later or something?
That's the idea. I should hope so. We got to keep
Talk
the
about
gene
privilege.
But what happens if somebody sits next to me? I wouldn't call myself pretty. So somebody sits down next to me, they're in trouble.
They're fucked.
They're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. Well, thank you for joining us with Mr. Billy Bob Thornton. Next week, what do we have next week? Who's going to be joining us next week?
We have some crazy stuff. We have a UFO specialist, investigator, and researcher from Colorado, Katie Page. And this is a very strange and fascinating conversation. This is crazy.
Indeed.
Buckle up for that one.
It's part one of our lengthy conversation because there was a lot to talk about. Because there's a lot of shit going on in the UFO world. And it's bad.
We kept, she would talk and then we'd be like, what? And it would be some new crazy topic and then another crazy topic.
No, there was a lot of stuff I had no idea what the hell it was. Well, once again, friends, thank you for joining us for this conversation with Mr. Billy Bob Thornton. I hope that at least Hollywood listen to this and will cast me in an astronaut picture, will cast me as an astronaut, or at the very least, as a werewolf.
Yeah.
Or how about this? How about this, Steve? How about a werewolf who is an astronaut? Because imagine how fucked up that would get.
That would be fantastic,
You'd constantly be on the moon. You'd constantly be presented with a full moon. You'd just be constantly fucking running around on the moon.
Would you be in a suit as a like you'd be transforming in a suit?
I suppose I'd have to be. Yes, I'd be in the suit. I'd be stuck in the suit, but you'd constantly be in a state of turning into a werewolf. Because of course you're on the moon. You get it?
Somebody write that script.
Fantastic. Ciao. See you around. And from us here at Chinwag, out.
Come Chinwag with us every Wednesday. Find and follow us for free on Apple Podcasts and all major podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube, where we have some wonderful animations.
Got a question? Well, leave it in the comments.
And find us on Instagram or TikTok at ChinwagPod or on Twitter at Chinwag_pod.
And don't forget to go to Apple Podcasts and give us 5 stars. I'm going on a hunger strike until you do it. I'm not kidding. I will not eat until you give me 5 stars.
Chinwag is a production of Treefort Media and Touchy Feely Films. Hosted and executive produced by Paul Giamatti and Stephen Asma. Executive producers for Treefort are Kelly Garner and Lisa Ammerman. Dan Carey is executive producer for Touchy Feely. Our series producer is Rachel Whitley Bernstein. Our associate producer is Andrew Miller. Original theme music by Luke Topp, with additional music by Via Mardot. Oscar Guido is our executive in charge of production. Tom Monahan is head of audio for Treefort. Animation created by Alex Sokol. Audio production, supervision, and editing by Maxwell Carney. Additional audio assistance and mixing by Jeff Neal. Video editing by Brian Barczewski, with additional production management from Renee Levesque. Clara Wong is Celestial Empress of Benevolent Knowledge. Lastly, for more information, go to chinwagpod.fm and find us on Instagram or TikTok at chinwagpod or on Twitter at chinwag_pod.